At least it was with a woman. Words you never really want to have to say, but because of the state of things, whenever there is a case of a priest being in violation of his vows, infidelity, we find ourselves almost breathing a sigh of relief when it accords to nature. At least it was with a woman. Because in so many cases, it's not. Now, a man who violates his vows with a woman is still in a gravely scandalous position and has left the priesthood by his actions. In this case, he was forced to resign, and the Pope accepted his resignation. And the story that you're about to hear wouldn't be that interesting, except for, of course, at the core of this is the sin that motivates most every other sin, and that is the sin of pride. The bishop, in this case, not a priest, merely a priest, but a bishop of Christ, didn't bow down and walk away with grace and any sense of shame. Instead, he lashed out at the church. Many such cases, as they say. We turn here to an outlet I don't use very often. I became aware of this story because a viewer sent this to me, and I thank them for it. But the website is, of course, lemonde.fr, a French news outlet. The headline, French bishop forced to resign over relationship with woman, Vatican says. Pope Leo XIV accepted the resignation of Jean-Paul Guiching, former bishop of Verdun in eastern France, after a Vatican probe into his conduct. The ex-bishop admitted to a years-long affair, but denounced his eviction as disgusting and driven by jealousies. Driven by jealousies. That's definitely a take to make. Driven by jealousies. I guess they're just jealous that he has a woman who cares for him in his life. They're jealous. No sense of shame. No humility. Pray for this bishop. And don't rejoice necessarily that at least it conformed to nature. He broke his vows, his promise he made to God and the church. Let's go to the article for a cautionary tale that just because you are a man whose inclinations conform to nature does not mean that you are immune to the pitfalls that can come to the priesthood. Pope Leo XIV pressured a French bishop to step down over his relationships with women, according to the Vatican, with the defrocked clergyman hitting back on Wednesday, November 5th at the disgusting situation. When announcing his resignation as the Bishop of Verdun in late September, Jean-Paul Guiching had hinted that health issues lay behind the decision to hang up his crozier. But the Holy See's embassy to France on Tuesday revealed that those were but one element behind the decision, with a preliminary canonical investigation into his behavior underway with civil courts alerted to the matter. In an unusual intervention from the Apostolic Nunciature in Paris, the embassy said that after it had alerted the pontiff to the matter, Guiching admitted, quote, to avoid in future any behavior towards women that could be interpreted as contrary to his holy vows. But given the ongoing nature of the situation, the Holy Father solicited and accepted his resignation, which took effect on September 27th, the Nunciature added. A day after the embassy's statement came to light, Guiching admitted to having a relationship which lasted, quote, from around 2015 to 2022. But the ex-bishop said that was, quote, the only affair he had committed, insisting that the disgusting push for his resignation was motivated by jealousies. They want my head, the ex-bishop told the local paper L'Essai Républicain in an interview published on Wednesday evening. Asked whether the relationship was consensual, Guiching said yes, she was a woman of age. The Vatican has ordered him to, quote, refrain from any liturgical celebrations and public pastoral activities. Catholic bishops are strictly forbidden from having any intimate relationships, though the church has been rocked in recent decades by a litany of, McCarrick-type scandals. And mostly, quote, they are jealous. Okay. Not the best way to handle this. I couldn't really find one way or another this bishop's stance on things like the traditional liturgy, the synodality, where what kind of stance he's taken before on morality of the flesh, and other kinds of things that might have gotten him labeled internally as rigid and moved to be removed from the priesthood and from his active ministry as a bishop. Couldn't find anything. Doesn't mean there's anything not there. So if you let me know in the comments, if you're familiar with this bishop, let me know if was actually fairly orthodox in things. Again, plenty of very conservative and traditionally minded priests have been caught up in scandals like this and much worse. There was one involving the FSSP a couple of years ago. One of the founding members of the FSSP turned out to have been a McCarrick type. It was hard for many to accept that. And it should have served as a warning to us that among even our own very conservative, traditional ranks, you will find bad actors as well. But this bishop was forced to resign. Barring some bombshell coming out about this having been motivated by internal church politics or the resistance to the new synodal religion, then this is one of those things where the Pope is, give credit where it's due. You have a man like this step down. There is no excuse for this, and no loosening up the church's teachings and on disciplines related to celibacy and chastity aren't going to fix the problem. The biggest defenders of clerical celibacy turn out to be unmarried priests. They are the biggest defenders of it. The second biggest defenders of it are the few married clergy in the Catholic Church. You should listen to their critiques of the proposal sometime. It's not going to help fix this. This was essentially in a form of adultery. He had made vows to the church. Unfortunately, we can not always look to our shepherds to be the best moral guideposts. We don't necessarily expect a priest or a bishop to be a saint. It is great when they are. But we do expect them to behave better than we do on these kinds of matters. Fortunately, it's not always the case. Let me know what you think of this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps. Sharing this on social media helps too. Please pray for this bishop and pray for anybody we spoke about in a negative way today. I'm not trying to make you angry at them. They need your prayers, so please pray for them. It's a great act of charity if you do so. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.